So, hello everyone. So today we have Miss Saloni Parekh with us. She's working at Cvent as a customer relationship and engagement manager. So, ma'am, to begin with, could you briefly share the current business context at Cvent, particularly in the customer relationship and engagement, and how the role of an account manager is evolving?
Well, hi, thank you so much for the warm introduction. And so, just to give you a quick context, so as a business, we operate in event tech space, right? So, which has massively evolved after COVID. So you'll be seeing like these marketers doing these events, like product launch events, engagement events, and they just don't want these to be just for the namesake. Like they do want to get some data driven and ROI focused outcomes out of these events. Because of this, customer expectations have also changed. Client just don't want like to use another product. They want to like partner with them to drive outcomes. They want the attendee engagement, lead generation, and want to have like an event ROI out of it. So that is where I see the account manager role has been evolving, because earlier it used to be just about managing accounts and resolving the queries. But with time, over the time, it has become more consultative. Like we need to understand what the customer actually wants and sort of give them a better growth opportunity, because they are also sort of they also want like problem resolution is one part of it. They also want to make the best use of the product that we are giving them. So yeah, just so basically now the account manager has to act as a strategic advisor rather than just a support function for the client.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that insight. Moving ahead, um, what key expectation does Cvent have from fresher graduates entering customer relationship and client management roles?
Well, great question for you all. But not just from the Cvent perspective, but in general for any fresh graduates coming into like customer facing roles. The expectations are actually pretty clear, so it's not as intimidating as it seems. Like you'll not be thrown in front of the client directly, but there are a few key aspects that you guys need to keep in mind. The first would be the ownership mindset. So, as an account manager, you are given a set of accounts, and so you need to own up to every activity that is happening there. I mean, you cannot just take a back seat and let whatever happen. You need to proactively reach out to them, and you need to sort of own the accounts. Secondly, which is the most basic yet a very how should I put this? It is a very niche, it is a very basic thing that everyone should have, but for a customer facing role, it is really, really important that you have a strong communication. I mean, just talking to somebody, like just giving them some information in a paragraph, or just saying your part and ending the conversation is not actually a strong communication. You need to sort of understand what they are trying to tell you, and how you have to frame your answers to make it sound feasible for them. And the third part, as a customer facing role, so when you're facing the customer, you cannot be on the ground without knowing what you're actually talking about, right? Let's say you're in whatever industry, and if you're talking to client about your product or your company, you need to be willing to learn more about the product in general, because otherwise you might come across as somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about.
That was very insightful, ma'am. Could you walk us through the typical recruitment and selection process at Cvent for such roles, and what candidates should focus on at each stages?
Okay. Basically, typically, the selection recruitment process is very structured. So it is divided in like two parts. One is to understand the mindset, and next is to understand the skill set, right? So the screening round is where they look at your basic communication, clarity of thoughts, or cultural fit. So there might be questions around how you cope up with some of the drawbacks that you came across in your life. And the second round is more of a technical skill round. So basically, it's a presentation, mock demo sort of call round where you'll get a case study, and then despite not knowing about the product, how well can you actually pitch it with the given information is what they want to check. Like, you don't need to have 100% information because nobody can, right? But the set of information that you have and how better you can project it to your client, I think that is what they're looking for. So yeah, these are the basically two rounds that they do. And the best advice that I can give would be to keep your answers, I think, structured. I mean, you cannot, like, it should not happen that they are talking about something else and you're replying in an entirely different context. And keep it more conversational. I think this would help you cracking any interview. Like, don't go into an interview thinking as if it's just a question and answers round. When somebody is asking you questions and you have a fixed set of answers, it should be more of a communication, and use sort of real life example wherever possible. I mean, you can use the examples of your college because there might be question thrown on you, like, um, what was one setback that you came across and you overcame, right? You guys are not working right now, but there might be situations in your college that has happened. You need to be ready with all these answers, because you cannot go there and say that we didn't have any setback, because that is not true, right? Everybody has some or the other, or you need to know how to frame it for them. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Last question to you. In your experience, what specific skills or competency and behavior differentiate successful candidates in customer relation and engagement roles?
Okay, so in my experience so far, so how to differentiate candidate is, you know so there are situational approaches to it when it comes to client engagement facing roles, because you cannot be given a one set of strategy like for more monotonous role that you can do every day, repeat every time. It's not as monotonous job as other roles. Comparatively, it is more of an agile. You have to be more proactive. So usually the key skill that is required is empathy, which is because you're going to be talking to, let's say, 10 different clients in a day, and you need to genuinely understand clients' perspective. Because if you're talking to 10 different people in a day, it gets hectic for you also. And if you don't have a basic empathy to greet them nicely, because sometimes at the end of the day you might not be in a mood to have a conversation with somebody, but it's your job, it requires you to do that. You need to have high empathy. There has to be more proactiveness being in client facing roles, because client would not chase you down, right? They have to pay money. They would not come like follow up with you regarding something. They would be like, let it be. But you have to be more proactive in reaching out to them. And I think that is very important. And third is sort of being strong or building that resilience, because whenever you're dealing with clients, it's not going to be always rosy, right? You need to hear a very critical feedback. Sometimes they might be lashing out on you because of something that happened on the product, which you might not even be directly associated with, right? It's not your fault that something is happening, but since you are dealing with them, they would come to you with every grievances that they have, right? So I think you need to be more resilient when it comes to that. And a really big differentiator is just having the commercial or social awareness that whenever somebody's giving you something, you have something meaningful to add to it. Like, just to even make a conversation with a client, it cannot be a conversation where you go like, okay, hey, hi, hello. Like, you cannot talk to them like your friends. So if some conversation is happening, you need to be aware of certain things which would add a sort of make you seem intelligent during the conversation, and not as somebody who doesn't know what they're doing.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable insights. This session has been really extremely helpful for us, and we truly appreciate your time. Thank you